Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Today's learning is dedicated in memory of Aaron ben Avraham, Arthur Weinberg, our good friend Arthur Weinberg, whose yard site is today.
Zev Reb Dovbil.
And also today's learning is for the memory of Zev ben Dovber, that his neshama, Arthur's neshama, should have an aliyah. Okay. Perek Dalet, chapter 4, Mishnah 9. Nisa Chamayim Ketzad. The previous Mishnah had mentioned there's a mitzvah of Nisa Chamayim, reporting the water. The mitzvah was done for 7 days. Right? 7 days, every day of Sukkot. And now the Mishnah says, Nisa Chamayim Ketzad, how was this mitzvah performed? Tzaloicha Shal Zav, a golden pitcher, machzeka shloishes lugim, that held 3 lug. Lug is a liquid measure of the times of the Mishnah, the times of the Torah. So this pitcher of 3 lug, hayamamalim min hashiluach, a Kohen would fill from the shiloach. The shiloach was a stream, a spring rather, a spring which was near Yerushalayim, and it was from there they would fill up the water. Higiu l'shar hamayim, when they reached the gate of the water. Now, the gate of the water was the gate that was closest to the ramp of the Mizbeach. See, eventually the point is to take this water and to pour it on the Mizbeach, on the altar. So the closest gate of the courtyard that was closest to this ramp, to the ramp going up to the altar, was this gate, which they called the gate of water. Why? Because that's the gate that used to bring the water for the Nisa Chamayim through. Okay, but the point was that gate was the gate closest to the altar. And when they came to that gate, Taku v'heriyu v'taku, they blew a trumpet. They blew on trumpets, a tkiya, the long sound, shrua, the broken sound, v'taku, and then they blew the tkiya again. The reason for blowing the shofar with a trumpet at these points is what we asked before. It's an expression of joy. And the pasuk reads, "Usha'aftem mayim b'sasain." You will draw water in joy. So therefore, we have this blowing of the trumpets. Okay. Ola Kevesh. A Kohen would go up the ramp. Now, the ramp was located to the south of it was located southward. Okay. It was located to the south. Ola Kevesh, he went up on the ramp. Ufana l'smoilai, and he turned left. When he got up to the top of the altar, top of the ramp, top of the altar, he turned left. Now, by turning left, that brought him to the southwestern corner of the Mizbeach, because the way it was situated, you had the Mizbeach north to south, and then you had actually. I'm sorry, did I say eastern or western? What did I say? It's be western, southwestern corner. You had east and west. Okay, so he would go to the point was to turn left and go to the southwestern corner of the altar. Shnei safalim shakesav hayusham, and there were 2 bowls made of silver there, 2 silver bowls there. Okay, now let me just at this point let me show you a start off picture, which is right over here. You see, we have the altar with the ramp. Right, and then in the southwestern corner, right, they have, it's hard to see, but these 2 circles, which is meant to be those 2 bowls. That's where those 2 bowls were located. Now, Rabbi Yehuda says, "Shall sit you." Actually, these bowls were not made from silver; they were made from plaster. Just that I'll show you, just that they turned dark and appeared silver, because of the wine that was poured into there. The wine changed its color, and therefore it turned. Yehuda says you may have thought it was silver because it had that color, but no, it wasn't silver. It's really plaster that turned darker because of the wine that was poured in there. Now, one of the questions that's going to have to be asked is, but these 2 bowls, one was for wine and one was for water. The water one shouldn't have changed the color. So why would both of them be discolored? And the answer is because it would happen they'd pour the wine into the wrong one. It's not probably, it was not, it happened enough times that it would be able to change the color. Okay, now, umenukavin kamin shnei chatamin dakin. And they had holes that they describe like two nostrils. Each bowl had a spout at its base, in which there was a hole, giving the appearance of a nostril. So you've got these two bowls. You have these two bowls. At the base of the bowl, you have a spout where the water comes out from, and there was a hole there. In order for the water to come out, right, it's got to be a hole. There's got to be a hole in order for something to be able to come out from those bowls. Now, Mishna continues, Echad me'uva ve'echad dak. The hole or the nostril of one bowl was wide, and the other one was narrower. Kedei shu shneyem kol mevas achas, so that they both should end at the same time. Meaning, the point here was that you were going to pour the water into one bowl and the wine into the other bowl. And actually, the wine that was pulled into the bowl, that was always my understanding. That was wine libations were brought all year round. So the bowl that was meant for the wine, that was constantly used. And you can understand now a little bit better why maybe sometimes I made a mistake and poured it into the wrong one, or over the whole year. So now you have one that was for wine, one that was for water. One of them is going to have a bigger hole than the other. Why? Because the wine was thicker than the water in those days. And therefore, if it was thicker, it would come out slower. And they wanted them both to empty at the same time. When you poured it into the bowls and you wanted them to come out of the bowls, because what they would do is they would pour it into the bowls. It would come out from the spout and the nostril. And then it would go on top of the altar, actually into like two pipes that now took it all the way down below ground. So the point was, what we wanted was that they should both end at the same time. Well, if that's going to happen, you need the wine one to be wider and the water one to be more narrow. Ma'aravi shalmayim, the bowl to the west, meaning the one to the most west, was for the water. Mizrachi, the one to the east, meaning the one more towards the east, shal yayin, was used for the wine. Eira shal mayim l'seich yayin. Let's say you poured the water into the wine bowl, or b'shal yayin l'seich shal mayim, or the wine into the water one. Yatsa. You're still yaitza. You're still, the mitzvah has been done. It doesn't invalidate the mitzvah. Okay, so that is the description of the mitzvah. Now, let me just again what I mentioned before. The water and the wine flowed from these holes, from these nostrils, onto the top of the altar. And from there, they drained into a hole in the top of the altar that led to deep hollows beneath the altar. So you've got the two bowls, the water and the wine were going to come out. They would go along the top of the altar and then go into two holes that went way, way deep into the ground. And that's where the wine and the water went. Now, typically, it was just the wine that went there, that did this. Now, on Sukkot, you also had the water at the same time that was poured onto the altar, into these bowls, going out and going into the holes. Okay. Rabbi Yehuda says, Rabbi Yehuda argues, the first opinion of the Mishna said that the jug was 3 lugim large. That was the volume, 3 lugim. And Rabbi Yehuda says, balug, it was only 1 lug. So he said 1 lug, it was a lug that he poured all 8 days. The Tanakama, the first opinion was it was only done on Sukkot, not on Shemini Atzeret. It's not on the 8th day. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, it was done on the 8th day also. Now, and to the one pouring, we say to him, Hag b'yadcha, lift up your hands, meaning when you pour, you should be pouring. We want you to lift it up high for everyone to see. Why? Because one time it happened that a Kohen Gadol, who was really a closet Tzeduki, a closet Sadducee, and they didn't believe in this Nisach HaMayim, didn't believe in this pouring of the water. You know what he did? One time it happened that one Kohen poured it on his feet. Meaning, he poured it, right? There's no water here. But he, instead of pouring it into the bowl, he poured it on his feet. That was his way of showing, I don't believe in this. or that's why he did it, because they didn't believe in it, because it was Saduki. And what did they do to him? Or Gamu called the entire people present, they stoned them with their esrogim. They took their esrogim and they threw it at him. So because of the fact that the Tzedukim didn't believe, and they had this experience where a Tzeduki, who was a Kohen, was a Tzeduki, poured it on the floor, they told him from now on that when you pour it, you got to lift it up high. We have to see you pouring it. They can now see him pouring it into the bowl. So therefore, that's what it means, Lamanasech, and to one that was pouring, they used to say to him, Hag b'yadcha, lift up your hand, pour it from on high, so that people should be able to see that he was pouring it into the bowl and not onto his feet. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.
This was the king.